everybody. Welcome back to Universal Teas. It's the People's Podcast with your girl Toya. And as you all can see, I'm in a new space.
Yeah.
I have a special guest. I have a co-host. So get used to him. This isn't the only time that you're gonna see him. But this is Mr. Hill the Hood himself.
Yeah.
This is Ajamou Butler. So
Okay.
welcome to the space and the place.
What's happening, Universal T? What's going down, community? What's happening? Yeah.
So, this episode is a part of a 4-part series that we are calling the Sankofa series. Okay, so what I wanted to do, and every time I come on, I kind of tell people how I got to the space to record this episode.
Yeah.
So, the reason that I call it the Sankofa series is because Sankofa is a concept derived from Africa, and it's a concept of returning to get it. That's what it means. That's what it translates into. And so when we say return to get it, we're talking about acknowledging who you were in the past, acknowledging your history, acknowledging your heritage, acknowledging the trauma that you've experienced and the people before you have experienced, in order to kind of propel you forward.
Yeah.
And I thought that you would be the perfect person to talk about this because although we all have a story, I feel like your impact has been felt not only through you and what you do, but also just through who you've been and who you show up as. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, because baby, listen, I had to secure my spot, okay? Because my guy is booked and busy, so just tell us a little bit before we get into the meat of what we're going to be talking about. Who you are, how did Heal the Hood come to be? What is your Sankofa story for who you are? How are you sitting in your greatness and your brilliance and your kingship? So just give us a little bit about you.
You know, you gotta be over here cheesing and shit. You gotta be over here smiling with that type of intro. But what's going on, y'all? My name is Ajamou Butler. I founded Heal the Hood back in 2012, and that I think I was 20 when I started Heal the Hood. So, you know, at 20, my life took a serious turn. It took a serious path when I decided to be obedient to that thing that was inside of me. And as we was just talking about, like, I knew that there was so much inside of me, but my environment did not necessarily reinforce that. So I understand getting it out the mud for real. I understand faith of a mustard seed and being able to move mountains. But nonetheless, I grew up here in Milwaukee. 2 phenomenal parents. Like, I love my mom and my daddy. Like, I fucking love them. You hear what I'm saying? Like, honor thy mother and father for real. Your days will be long. That's what I believe. Especially if you got good parents and shit. But nonetheless, what I appreciate about my parents is they always raised us in a very culturally enhanced household, right? So there was always an idea of global politics and history and reading and studying. I mean, from the womb to the tomb, as I was kind of saying earlier. And I never knew that would shape my life so serious as a man. Like, but I can remember being a kid watching documentaries and lectures and shit, and I would just be so in awe at these brothers and sisters, these scholar black men and women who would read all of these books and shit and teach the audience of hundreds of people for hours on end. I just was like, damn, I wish I could do some shit like that. Like, that's dope as hell. And I can remember seeing a couple local speakers and lecturers and shit, and that just, when I became a man, it just kind of naturally flowed. Circumstances allowed it. But what really birthed Heal the Hood was the birth of my son. There were 2 things that birthed Heal the Hood. I was unemployed like a motherfucker at the time. No car, holes in my shoes. On my life, just I was out here bad. 1 foot in the streets, hustling and shit. The other foot realizing that I need to change my life and be a dad. Because I had a phenomenal father in my life and shit. So I knew I had to step up to the plate, if you will. So that was a piece of the puzzle. And then I was working with a small group of people. This is a small community group. And we was about to bring in a lecturer to do some speaking. But the cost was getting too high and shit. Speaker fee, travel, hotel, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, let's just do a little block party. Let's call that shit Heal the Hood. You know, we had partnered with Growing Power, Will Allen and them up on Silver Spring. They gave us some fruit that we gave away. A couple of speakers, like 2 vendors or some shit. But that little did I know that day, May 26, 2012, on the corner of First and Right, I never knew that we bust the atmosphere open for an anointing of healing to flow forward. In my mind, we had just did an event, but people kept hitting me like, okay, well, when is the next one? And, you know, obviously the thing was like anti-violence and just healing, blah, blah, blah. So people wanted me to come into their schools and talk. And that's what started my journey of education. At this point, I'm international with it, and that's been blowing my mind. Like, this international journey from Jamaica to Panama to Africa, teaching and preaching, and you know what I'm saying? And I don't stay in resorts, and I never want to stay in resorts, and I never want to do touristy type shit, like take me to the gang, take me to Broden, take me to the block, and let me blend in and be comfortable, you know, and let my survival and just God take over from there. So that's been a blessing to my life. I'm a 4 times published children author. I'm a spoken word champ. I'm that guy. I'm that guy in so many words. I don't even be gassed like that. I'm just talking shit. It's quickly got me feeling the type of way. So I'm just, yeah, I'm this, I'm that. But all in all, I'm a servant. And I do believe that healing is something that we all got to deal with. And we all got to face certain traumas and pains and shit to be our greatest self. So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay.
Yes.
And so I just want to name that I see that and I feel that, and I just want you to know how important your voice is. That's why I think it's important for you to be here.
Thank you.
Right? Because I have this theory for myself that I don't idolize anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't make somebody extraordinary because that minimizes who I am. Instead, I decide to admire.
Mm-hmm.
I decide to learn. So I never want to be the smartest person in the room.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like pulling somebody in who has something that they can bring to the table to get me to greater is important, because a lot of times, and maybe I'm tripping, let me know if I'm tripping, people are afraid to be subpar to somebody, to be a little bit lower than somebody. Mm-hmm. But it's like, if you really want to go high, how you know what to aim for if you don't see it?
Yes.
If you're not around it, if you don't feel it.
Yes.
Right? So what I want to know from you is why, this episode is called Why Return? Because the concept of Sankofa is to return to where you've been in order to propel you to where you want to be.
Yes.
So I want to start off with asking you, why do you think that it's important? And I'll share my perspective too. Why do you think that it is important to return? Because when we have trauma, some people are afraid to return to the pain.
Yes, God.
You're afraid to return to the things that hurt you. But sometimes people feel like, or I feel like, that can be the most important things to return to. So from your perspective, why is it important to return?
You know, and I ain't gonna lie, that's such a complex, beautiful question. What comes to mind is the saying, you have to go back in places where you cried and laughed at. You have to reverse the narrative. You gotta reclaim a power. Right. You know what I'm saying, that you once lost at a point in time. I really understood the value of that quote. We was down in South Carolina. That's where my mama from. We was visiting my granddad, and I had my son and my nephew, just doing our family thing. Right. And we went to this spot that was right off the beach, and my mama told me, like, this house, my mama had battled drug addiction and shit real bad, like prostitution and all type of shit, you know, as a young woman. And she said, this house right here is where I came to recover. And it was one of the worst periods of my life. And I said, look, you probably thought you was about to die right there. Now you returning, and we're going to look at this house, and it's you, your son, your grandson, your grandnephew, your father, and now we can look back and say, this house molded you. It made you what you are today. And we thank God for this house and this covering that the house provided. So I think in a practical sense, especially when you talk about addressing trauma, you can't, you got to address it. You have to. You got to fight the demons. David Banner said, every day I wake up and fight my demons is a good day. Because as long as I'm still fighting demons, I have not become them. Right? And I take so much heed to that, because if we ignore demons, we're giving them the power. Right. If I got a real addiction that keep me up at night, right? If I got a real, issue with a family member that we need to hash out, if my relationship is not relationshiping, you got to deal with that. That thing will rob you of sleep. Yeah. That thing will rob you of peace. That thing will rob you of money. And so the concept of Sankofa in a personal sense, right, as it pertains to mental health, is extremely important. In a societal sense, we got to look back to where we came from so that we can understand where you said slingshot earlier. Yeah. I said, that's some good game. We got to pull it back to shoot it forward. Yeah. So I don't want to hog up the perspective on that, but I think it's extremely important that we look at, obstacles over our life and say, okay, how did that make me feel? Because there's a lot of grown-ass men and women still dealing with little boy and girl traumas. Very much so. And that's why they handle their relationships so rough. They still got unaddressed shit with their parents, so they can't really connect with other, adults or so on and so forth. But, yeah, that's a great fucking question.
So I think that when we talk about returning, because in my notes, y'all know I keep my Bible on me, so I know what we talk about. The question that I posed at the beginning is, if we want to move forward, why should we look back? Because sometimes we have this concept and this idea of, well, if I got through it, I ain't got to look back at it. I ain't got to go back to it. I'm over it. I'm returning. But the way I feel about it is that if you're presented with this situation again, if you're presented with this struggle again, returning lets you see how you handled it, how you felt in that moment. You're returning to that emotion. You're returning to that moment. You know how to better handle it. Yeah. So it's really building up your artillery. Mm-hmm. It's really getting yourself ready for war, because now that I beat this battle, I already know how y'all come in.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I know my toxic ex.
Absolutely.
I know all your battle moves.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? This ain't Mortal Kombat. You ain't combat.
You can't do the combo on me.
You ain't gonna do the combo
Absolutely.
on me.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and I think that's something that we need to deal with or acknowledge in a personal setting and societal. You know, we both black people, but even understanding this is the trauma that our ancestors have gotten
Correct.
through. This is the trigger to that trauma. But knowing that I come from kings, I come from queens, I come from people who built fucking empires, who literally built the infrastructure that this country sits on. So no the hell you can't tell me what I can't do. Matter of fact, I gave you the blueprint for what the fuck you doing. So it's like you could sit people down when you understand, but if I don't know that, somebody coming to me telling me like, oh, I have this business idea, or my grandfather gave me these inheritance. I'm inherited with greatness. My inheritance is a queen. My inheritance is a king. My inheritance is people who just laid the foundation for the world, for civilization. So it's like returning to me is so important because it's literally your blueprint.
Absolutely.
You can't build a house with no foundation. Returning is your foundation. You know, and I don't know specifically. So the next question that I kind of had is, what is it that we are returning to? Because we can keep saying return, right? This concept of Sankofa is return and get it. What is it that we're returning to? We know what we want to do. I know I want to be a famous podcaster, and y'all gonna just have 8 million subscribers on my YouTube channel, and y'all gonna have 85,000 people trying to get on my live. I know.
Manifestation. Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
And
I know that's gonna happen.
And yes,
but
ma'am.
I have to understand the blueprint of what needs to happen before that.
Straight up.
I need to understand people who are famous podcasters, who are great on YouTube, who are great at speaking. I need to understand the roles that they played. I need to understand the trials and tribulations that they went through, so I can see the spin moves when they come through.
Absolutely.
So what would you say you have to return to in order to stay who you are, in order to keep the impact, in order to give the influence and the knowledge that you give on a daily basis? What is it that you are returning to? Yeah.
And one thing I had to write it down.
Look, you better.
You better. A lot of decisions that I made in my past was off of survival.
Yes.
So if I was faced with those same situations, I have to reflect. I have to do some Sankofa Sankofa, because I'm not thinking and operating off survival no more. So I can't make those same decisions. I can't take the risks I would take. You know what I'm saying? Back then, when I one foot in the game and one foot out the other, I can't take certain risks no more. So it's like, let's say I'm caught in a financial jam. 5, 6, 7 years ago, I'm picking up a bag. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is. Like I get it just is what it is and shit. But nowadays, it's like, okay, how do I learn from the mistakes and shit that I made in the past and not do that shit no more? But it's like, what do we return to on a personal sense? I'm returning to everything that hurt me. You know what I'm saying? So let's look at it like this. I was doing a training about removing biases, right? I was doing the staff development, and I used the example of a woman who was a lady boss, and she's about to hire some folks. She work in the HR department, if you will. She does not have a good relationship with her father, right? He was abusive, he was toxic, so on and so forth. This man comes into the interview room. He is qualified to the T, honey. He is qualified to the T for the position, but he looked like her dad. So she don't even give a fuck about the interview questions and things like this no more. She look over the resume, ask him 2 or 3 questions. Okay, we'll call you. She ain't knowing she just passed up on the $1 million individual that she need, but because she has not addressed some past trauma, some things resurfaced. And she hurt her current self, her company, her position, because she still, again, is dealing with those past things. So what do we return to? Those things that still rob us of sleep. Yes. I ain't gonna sit here and play. I got relationships 2, 3 years ago that I'm still like, why the hell do me like that? Like, she bogus. Like, and I know I can't move forward successfully in relationships until I forgive myself for them things, until I forgive her for them things. But I can't just ignore it and act like it don't exist. Right. You know what I'm saying? So that's on a personal sense. Culturally, black people are behind on every single spectrum in the game. We are behind educationally, financially, militaristically, politically, health-wise, and we can continue to go on. So I think until we can take that slingshot step back so that we can, better trajectory we're going forward, we're going to be lost. We came from kings and queens, but we had a huge disruption in our history. You know what I'm saying? That still perpetuates itself, if you will. It just looked totally different. Right. Racism is cloaked totally different. And so to go back in the past, and it ain't about like, oh, let me study the transatlantic slave trade, or let me study. And that's real, though. We got to understand that shit because it ain't being taught by our schools, so our kids and whatnot. But I think as a black man, understanding that this planet is mine, for real, like, from the fucking cosmos to the star to Burleigh. You understand? From Botswana to Burleigh, it's mine. And I want it all. Oh, my mama from Brazil to, you know what I'm saying, brown deer, I want it all.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's why I go travel and shit like this and go to museums while I'm there in universities and let me learn some history about some things so I can better define my position as a black man in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you mention returning to your pain, I think that's something that I want to challenge all of us to do, right? Because at Universal Teas, I'm never just talking to y'all, and I hope y'all in the chat telling us what y'all think. Talk to us, please.
They talking to us.
We are sometimes afraid to return to pain because of shame.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think that we need to understand and internalize and kind of figure out a way, and I'm talking about myself, I'm telling my business, like I always be doing. There's some things that we're afraid to look at, and we don't even know how to approach them. The saddest thing, though, is a person who doesn't know that they need to return.
Oh, my God, yeah.
The most heartbreaking thing is, imagine loving someone, and it's like, I love you, I love what we got, but you not doing it right. And I'm telling you, you need to look at who you are, because you can't show up for me. You can't show up for me who's doing the work if you're not even willing to acknowledge that you need to do the work.
Yep.
So I think we need to give ourselves grace, because this is hard.
Yes,
returning to your pain is hard, and everybody's pain is different. One person's pain might be, hey, I just failed this fucking class. Another person's pain may be, I'm afraid to go home because my dad's about to whoop my ass. But we have to return to whatever our pain is and not feel shame, but understand and truly believe in it, and engulf the fact that returning to it means that nobody else can use it against you.
That's good.
So if I'm naming my bullshit, if I'm gonna sit here and say I've allowed toxic cycles, hey, I need help, you can't come at me and say you still that toxic ass nigga, and it's like, I just told you that. Either you gonna help me or you gonna move the fuck around.
But I'm not gonna be your topic of conversation, your gossip piece at all.
Okay.
That's transparency heals though. People so scared of transparency and truth. You know what I'm saying? We in the social media age. I call it the filter complex. We want to live a life of a filter, like way deeper than just putting the shit on our picture. We don't want nobody to know what really goes on, so we mask it through our outfits, our friendship circles, our CEO titles, our founder titles, but inside we broken in the motherfuckers.
Yeah.
We inside we dealing with storms that's raging crazy.
Man, and I think too, when I think of this concept, and Ajamou, my mind be all over the place. I be bouncing back and forth all the time. So, and I be forgetting what I'm talking about sometimes.
That's all right.
As long as y'all listening, my people be listening. They be catching me
up. If y'all right here with us, just say tap in the comments. Just say tap in for me. Yeah.
But I'm thinking about the black family.
Yes, God.
And I think that this is something that's been talked about so many times before, is how we kind of don't really fix issues. We kind of brush over them. We got through it. The strong black woman complex, the strong black man complex of, we got through it, so we don't need to go back. We don't need to look back. When in all actuality, I feel like, and maybe I'm just speaking for my black family or the black family that I've seen and witnessed and been around, but we're not really going forward. We're just getting comfortable in our bullshit. We're settling in our bullshit. And people say, I don't know if you've heard the saying, if you sit in shit long enough, it starts not to smell.
That's good.
But we got shit to fix, because the things that start to be great, and I've even noticed sometimes in my own accomplishments, I sometimes don't feel like they're being acknowledged, right? Because I get asked a lot, well, why don't you have kids? Where your man at? And it's like, I got 2 degrees, I pay my own bills, my car paid off, I got a career. What? Can we talk about that?
Right. Come on here.
We're returning to the concept of you not a strong black woman if you ain't taking care of some kids and feeding your man every night. So returning to that allows me to give grace. Allows me to give grace and still be able to love.
Yes, God.
Still be able to be around and be invested in my family, be with my friends, be in these spaces, because I understand that your trauma may not have been addressed, but that ain't got shit to do with me. So because I've returned to that concept and I kind of understand still who you are, I'm not carrying the load, but I can give you some grace.
Absolutely. Because I need grace too.
I need plenty
grace. Right, all my life.
My middle name might need to be
Glory.
Grace. Toya Grace.
Well, I need plenty grace nowadays. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So I just really want the black family to develop strength, or not strength. That's not the word, child. Not strength. I mean, of course, you know, strength is cool. Yeah. But that's not what I was going for. But I think the black family needs to needs to step out of fear for addressing our bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, all that we are so proud of is I raised all these kids by myself. But there's so much more you can do if you realize that if you tap into your village, you ain't have to raise them kids by yourself. And you have to understand that you don't have to stay in the position that you were in. Sometimes, and I know for a fact, because I've seen it, we get into this space where we get breathing room from our trauma, from the shit that we've been handed. We ain't on Section 8 no more. We ain't broke as fuck no more, because I've even dealt with this, and y'all know I'm going to tell my business before I tell y'all.
Talk about it.
Living on my own is the first time I really haven't had to think about struggling so much financially. But I've seen it growing up. So it's like, I got some money, bitch, I'm going to spend it. Right now, I'm still trying to get out of financial bullshit because I had a little bit of money.
I understand.
And it was like, I ain't got it. I don't care. Run it up. I don't care how much
Run
it costs.
on my mama.
You know? Because I thought that returning was like, well, since I used to be broke and I ain't broke no more.
Come on, that's good. Oh, that's good.
That's what I thought that meant. But interpretation and return is so return and learn. Ooh, y'all better return and learn.
Write it
Don't
down.
just...
Put that in the comments. Put that in the comments, please. Return and learn.
Return and learn. We're not just telling you to go back and sit in your pain to re-experience it.
Nope. Yeah, you ain't gonna pick out your scab. No. But you gotta put some ointment on that thing every once in a while.
You gotta look at it.
You can't just let the Band-Aid sit on there all day. You got to peel that off, and that hurt a little bit. Yeah. But it needs fresh air, fresh perspective, fresh prayer, fresh newness. You know what I'm saying? So that's good right there. That's good.
So you have to return to learn, because I think that's where the fear, even in my bullshit and development, who I am or who I want to be or who I'm gonna be, because we speaking that shit.
That's it.
When I returned, at first it was like, I don't want to talk about this. But you have to change your mindset to, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to feel this again, to, I got to figure out what in that moment made me feel that way, so I don't have to feel that way again.
That's right.
And you rather be the one to return to it yourself versus having somebody else point it out. Because now you don't know.
Absolutely.
I wasn't
ready. Yeah.
So how would you say that you have kind of filtered your trauma? Because we can return to those places. But do you have some cognitive steps or some steps that you take, even in habits, to kind of let you know, like, this isn't basically me experiencing it again, but how do you learn from where you've been? Yes.
And take two and a half steps back. When you talk about the black family, like, I'm so big on black men dealing with black men. Like, I'm not one to say, oh, black women need to do this, black women. I mean, we can have that conversation about who need to do what and shit. But I be so focused on black men, I need you to step your game up. I need you to heal. Yes. I need you to figure some shit out. I need you to pick up your hustle ethic. I need you to get closer to God. Yes. I need you to take care of your family. I need, as the word said, as a child, I did childish things and played with childish things. And when I became a grown man, I had to let that shit go. I'm paraphrasing, right? I'm paraphrasing. I ain't a preacher. I'm paraphrasing.
We don't know what exactly.
It's like something like that. You understand me what I'm saying?
But that's the mess.
I'm big on black man. Your family needs you right now. For real. But we need you at your best self. We don't need you as, oh, my name Lil Mo from 38th. I need you as, I'm trying to buy 38th. I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman type of concept and shit. We don't need you showing up high, drunk all the time, fucking with Molly and Wood. I'm just talking about the demographic that we deal with right here in our hometown of Milwaukee. I need you showing up sober-minded, ready to tackle the world. Because the world don't give a fuck about your pain and your problems. And so, for me, when I personally return back to my trauma through therapy, you know what I'm saying? It might be some, and nowadays I'm addressing shit in my therapy that I ain't talked to nobody about, but I've been dealing with this thing since a young teenager, early preteen age and shit like this, 20 plus years at this point. But I felt it's so necessary because I can't progress if I don't deal with this wall that's stopping me. And I noticed the wall that's stopping me. It's the baggage that's weighing me down. There are times where I have set the baggage down, walked away, but because it was such familiar baggage, I had to run right back to it. Like, no, I'll come back. I need that. I need that toxic thing in my life, if you will. So for me, therapy is a huge step when you talk about what are some practical things to do. How do you, revisit that trauma but not be traumatized? How do you learn from it, if you will? For one, you got to know why you're visiting that trauma. Me personally, when I'm in therapy and I'm talking through these things, it's because, for one, I don't want my son to go through some of the shit that I went through. So if I can better navigate, my teenage and my early fatherhood years, and hopefully I can give him better game, better insight, better skill set. I hate having mental fog. That overthinking thing, when you think about 50 different things at once. So sometimes I say, literally, the serenity prayer out the fuck loud. Like, God, if I can change it, accept it. If I can't accept it, change it. And help me know the difference between that thing. Like, I'm big nowadays on saying, okay, I can't do nothing with this, so I'm just going to move on to the next thing. If there's some devastation on the way, I'm not going to panic until the devastation comes. I'm going to get ready and say, what am I going to do when the devastation leaves? Because this thing ain't going to last forever. So when I revisit my trauma and my pain points, let's say for women, right? That's always been just a struggle in my life, dealing with women and, you know, blah, blah, blah and shit. Right. It's like, I have to revisit where I was weak as a man, because I can point fingers all day. Yeah. Say she did this, she did that. This should be valid.
Women, we messing up too.
Should be valid. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they know who they was and what they did and what they said and when they did it. Woo. So, you know, God bless them still. But if I don't address my shit, right, I have to look back and say, okay, what was I doing? What was my mind frame at in that relationship? I was bogus, I was toxic, if I want to have a successful relationship, be a husband and shit one day, I have to revisit those pain points when I was in them dumbass situations and using sex as a tool and all this type of other shit. Like, so I don't know. Me personally, I've just learned to hope for more. Right. I literally have a thing inside of me that says it's going to get better. Mm-hmm. So when I have to revisit the past, I'm knowing it's something that I got past. Right. So I can't get stuck there because I got to deal with right now. Mm-hmm. But it's a reflective state. It's what can I learn from that shit so I don't end up there again? Like, right. I ain't trying to get caught up there. I just need to learn something right quick and I'm moving on. Just like all of these books and shit. I ain't finna sit and reread every single book. Right. But it might be a word in there that I need to minister for or something. So I'm just going to pick up that quick reference, bust it down, then keep, you know, move on to the next. Yeah.
And you mentioned, and I be trying to keep up, I be forgetting stuff. But
where your pen at? Where your pen at? Girl, where your pen at?
Let me borrow yours.
Absolutely.
But the point that you made, thank you, about I might sit my baggage down. Ha ha. Amen. And then I walk away. Okay.
Oh, I'm missing some. You pat your pocket.
And you feel like, hold on.
You check your purse.
This is cool, but this ain't what I'm used to. Because before we started recording, y'all, I was talking about, damn, what did I say? When I was like, shit, what did I say?
Help her remember, God.
Come on, y'all, bring it back to me. It was like you sit it down. Oh, myself, when I talked about me overthinking or me being nervous or me being anxious. Yeah. I said, when I'm not anxious, I'm scared. Like, hold on, I'm not supposed to be chilling. I'm always supposed to be worried. God. I'm always supposed to be under pressure. I'm always supposed to be worried. When, in all actuality, you're fine. Right? Stop returning. We don't have to return to pain and sit in it.
Yes.
I felt anxious because I wasn't prepared. So, bitch, prepare.
Get ready. That's it.
I was nervous because I hadn't been in that environment before, but I'm here now. Mm-hmm. You did this before. You were successful. And even if you were not successful, why?
Yep. That's it.
Why?
That's it.
So, returning to comfort, don't let that be the pain, y'all, that you're returning to. Ooh, don't settle in the bullshit, because when you sit that bag down, remember why you did that.
Why you in the first place?
Why you sit that shit down in the first place?
It's hurting my back.
I can't wear 2 book bags at once. Mm-hmm. And even if I got one on each shoulder, that shit ain't gonna be even.
You unbalanced. That's good.
So that's what really struck me in what you were just saying. Is like, yes, sometimes we sit things down, but if you do return, if I do go back to the toxic relationship, if I do go back to the bullshit, the job that I hated, I need to be able to look at it and say, that shit's still the same. It ain't changed.
That's right.
It didn't change.
My standards have elevated a little bit. Like, that's all.
The fuck?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
If the motherfucker come knocking at your door.
That's it.
Don't come knocking, because I'm the answer. But when you open, it's the same person. You left some bullshit.
Get out of my business. Talk about your business, not mine. Talk to your followers and them about your shit, not mine. Because listen.
Because we oftentimes think that, and people who don't understand the concept of Sankofa being returned to get it, think like, I'm not going back there because it was scary, because it hurt.
Right.
But you got to be able to charge yourself up and realize that pain was a part of your purpose. And I think I wrote that.
Yeah. Pain and purpose.
So, moving to the next point that I said, it says that you have to acknowledge your past as a mirror to your purpose. Right? And not that you, in the mirror, you see you, but you're not seeing literally everything that you've been through. It's like this person is still able to propel forward. Yes, I have all this pain. Yes, I have scars. But being able to read and analyze those scars, because you, what I had said, everything that you have done or experienced is a part of your purpose potion. It's a part of your purpose potion. It's what makes you, and a potion is plenty shit. We could call it a jambalaya, if you will.
Yes.
Okay, you're
Absolutely.
constantly adding
Absolutely.
things. Trauma is constantly
Absolutely.
being added to your life. You're not going to stop experiencing pain. You're not going to stop experiencing trauma. You're not going to stop, because the more you elevate, the more bullshit comes. What they said, more money, more problems.
That's right. That's good. That's good.
More pain, more purpose.
That's good. Yeah.
So I think that we really need to believe ourselves and trust ourselves enough. Because I know for me, and I'm going to go back to telling my own business, I seek outside validation. If somebody didn't tell me I'm doing good, I didn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, most of my life, I've been a dancer. When you finish dancing, people are either going to clap or boo.
Mm-hmm.
So I internalized, if people aren't cheering for me, I must have not did a good job.
Yeah.
When in all actuality, maybe you just charging up. You ain't even stepped on the biggest stage you're going to see yet. So understanding that pain is a part of your purpose.
That's good.
Every single thing, I don't know if y'all believe it or not, but every single thing that you experience is going to push you to purpose. Because I dealt with heartbreak, I am able to see and understand and comprehend love better. Because I know what it is not. Right?
Yeah.
Because I've been broke as fuck.
Yeah.
Because of Section 8, food stamps, hand me down. I'm the youngest of 6,
All
y'all. New clothes was, what?
All
Come
that.
on, new fit.
All
Because
that.
I've experienced that, I now understand and value what I have.
Absolutely.
I now can connect to people who have that experience.
Absolutely.
I can't preach to somebody something that I've never been through. It's not authentic. Nobody's gonna fucking believe you.
Absolutely.
Right? So you can't preach about what you know, and every time on this platform I say I can't talk to y'all about stuff I don't know. That's why I bring brilliant people like this on to talk about other perspectives and things that I don't know. But what would you say to people who are afraid to return to their pain?
Man, listen. They say being broke is hard, getting money is hard. Choose your hard.
Listen.
Okay, dealing with that trauma is hard. Overcoming that shit is hard too. But what's on the other side of it? What's on the other side? So for me, like I said, I just know it's so much more out here than the prison that I keep my head locked in. When I'm going through shit, depression, stress, and so on and so forth. I'm learning that perspective rules the world. I'm learning that even when you don't have nothing, like you ain't got to be fucked up about it. Like, it be days, I swear to God, days where I don't have a nickel in my pocket, a nickel to my name. I'm going to put on $1 million outfit, honey. I'm going to preach hard. I'm going to preach good, so on and so forth. So I promise you, like, there is freedom on the other side. But freedom is scary. That's why we run back to that familiarity when we let that bag down, whether it's relationship, a bad job. I mean, how many of us, have ventured out into the entrepreneurial world and say, I'm going to let my job go because it don't make me happy. I'm going to be an entrepreneur and do my thing. But then we quit that job, and then that 2-week stability ain't coming in, and we right back to that job, right? And I get it, I respect it. I'm just using it as an example. Maybe it's a family thing, right? We keep allowing Uncle John to come to the family dinner because if we say he can't come, then we have to expose what he did to his nieces and nephews and them and things like that. But I promise you, freedom tastes so good. And freedom looks different to different people. When I was over in Africa, I swear to God, I gotta preach my own series about being in Africa for 2 weeks because that shit blew my mind. But anyways, my mama over there had asked me, she said, what's your morning routine? Like, she was just trying to help me get adjusted. It's an 8-hour time difference. It's like, how can I help you get yourself together? I'm like, damn. I was sobered in that moment. I was frustrated in that moment. But I was elevated in that moment because I realized by the time I wake up at 7:15, I'm at work at 8:15 damn near. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted that I quit my job before I went to Africa because I knew I wasn't going to come back the same. And I knew I couldn't come back and do the same shit. You know what I'm saying? Looking for different results. So I quit the job before I left. But it dawned on me that 60 minutes, I ain't even got 60 minutes to myself. By the time I wake up within 60 minutes, I'm serving, I'm at work, I'm checking emails, I ain't talked to God, I ain't read my book, I ain't did my Spanish lessons, I ain't did libation on my plants and shit, I ain't ate breakfast, I ain't even made a smoothie. Motherfucker, I'm running out the door, brushing my teeth and putting a shoe on at the same time. That's not life. That's not life at all. So for me, freedom. I really want to be free. I want to have freedom of my time, freedom of my thoughts. I want to have freedom of my emotions. There were times where I would be so mad, arguing with women and things like this. Like, you can't let nobody control your emotions like that, beloved. One thing I was taught as a man, manhood, a man who can control himself is more powerful than a man who can control 1,000 men, but not himself. That is good. That is good. So I'm
that.
learning to control myself, control my body, control my thoughts, control my spending habits, control just like atomic habits, because your habits gonna become either the best of servants or the worst of masters.
Yes.
The best of servants or the worst of masters. So just finding that little joy throughout the day is what brings me my freedom, because it is scary. So coming back to Milwaukee after Africa, like I said, I quit the job and shit. It was cool having them few days. Like, okay, I ain't gotta clock in. I ain't. But after a while, it was like, okay, something is wrong here. Like, wait a fucking minute. Like, I'm checking bank accounts, making sure money is coming in and shit. Because it's like, okay, I've never been in this position where I'm not on the go.
Right.
So I said, okay, develop your routine, brother. Heal the hood. Clean the cobwebs out the house. Fold the clothes that been sitting in the goddamn pile for a month. You know what I'm saying? You keep picking from. Water your plants. Do this. Do this. And so now I've developed a morning routine, and it's so empowering. I swear to God, it's so empowering to be able to reclaim that time. But I had to find that revelation through somebody just simply asking me, through Moms Over Africa, just simply asking me, like, what do you do in the morning? Right. I wake up and I go to work and I serve somebody else. I don't serve myself. I don't serve God. I don't serve my brain, my spirit, my emotions, so on and so forth. So it's a journey. It's a journey.
And I'm glad that you mentioned, like, morning routines, because please, y'all, don't get in the habit of working so hard to fulfill other people's visions when you have your own visions that are fucking bubbling on the inside of you.
Yes, God.
And that's something that I struggle with for a long time, because I come from people who work. You go to work, you get some money, you come home, you take care of the house. Nowhere in that did they ask me what I need for me.
None of that shit.
I'm showing up every fucking day. You going to a job that you fucking hate.
Yeah.
And you putting your best foot forward, that fake ass smile, you code switching like a motherfucker. That's not even your real fucking hair. And you sitting here doing this, knowing that that's not who you are. That is, man, how can you live like that? So don't allow yourself, even if you just like writing, I'm not telling nobody that everybody has to be Beyonce. I'm not telling you to get on the mic in front of a camera me.
That's right.
But if your thing is just, in order to be my best, I could love my job. There are some people out there that love their jobs, but we all get emotionally and mentally taxed. If it takes me writing and journaling every day, make time for that.
I'm going to do it.
Because I'm just starting to learn, because I've been working since I was in high school. Literally nonstop, sometimes 2-3 jobs. And this is the first time in my life when I moved to Milwaukee that I've only worked at one place. And so for me, I was like, damn, I'm lazy. I ain't really doing shit. I ain't hustling. When I feel like I had to tap in. So returning to the fact that I had to. I had to do that to make ends meet. I had to have 3 jobs in college. I was out of state.
You was operating on survival.
I had to make my own money in certain spaces in my life, because the money that my family made was to make sure that our family was good.
Yeah.
So I had to tell myself, God put you in a position to where that's all you need to do. Enjoy not having to do everything. Enjoy not having to be busy all day, every day. This is the first time I didn't have to sit my ass down. God has a funny way of doing it. And be appreciative. You pray for this.
Yeah, that's right.
But me returning to the fact that, damn, I was doing that because I had no other options.
Yeah.
I quit for the first time in my life, so I did have 2 jobs over the summer. I was like, oh, I'm going to teach summer school and I'm going to do this little other job on the side. And I couldn't stand it. And I had to tell myself, bitch, quit. That was the first time I've ever quit a job, because for the longest time, I had to work. Like, you ain't going to work. You don't eat. You don't sleep. Wait, no, that's not what they say. You don't work. You don't eat. Which is true, but I don't have to bust my ass.
I ain't got a slave for it.
I don't have to.
No, I ain't got to do
and
that.
I also acknowledge that I have gifts and talents that can make me money. I can get in a position if I want to where I can have other people make me money. Understanding that you're not always having to be the servant.
And I get it. We got to get that bag. Like, so I get it. You know what I'm saying? We are very educated individuals here. Like, we got bills, kids, life unexpected, car accident, da-da-da-da-da. So we are in an unfortunate environment where you got to get that bag, but you got to find that freedom amongst that too. Like, at the end of the day, you can't let that shit tear you down on the inside. Whether you got to save $1 a day till you hit that financial goal, or revamp your resume and lie on that motherfucker a little bit and tee up, or get into the entrepreneurial realm. But you gotta know when enough is enough. T.D. Jakes did a sermon called Knowing the Noise. And I mean, this thing bust my head open all the way. He talked about the stress of life and how it's so much noise. We can't think straight. We can't sleep straight. He said, what caught me out the gate in the sermon was, he said, have you ever went to sleep tired and woke up more tired than you went to sleep?
you better say?
It's because your body was asleep, but your mind ain't rested none because you got noise up there going on. He talked about how Jesus dealt with coming from Mount Olive and going to Mount Calvary. At Mount Olive, they were saying Hosanna, calling him king and shit. And Mount Calvary, they were saying killing.
Right.
So how do you exist in the middle when on one side of the game you got people who love you, on the other side of the game you got people who hate you?
Yeah.
He said, have you ever sat down at dinner like Jesus with Paul on one side and Peter on one side and Judas on one side? And you know what I'm saying? I mean, he just preaches so good, but the way he talked about, we got to learn how to let go of some of that noise and how to compartmentalize the noise and how to navigate the noise and all, because we can't stop the noise.
No.
He talked about weeping and walking. That was a cold piece of the sermon right there. Like, how many of us be weeping and walking? You can't stop crying because you're too fucking hurt. You can't stop walking because you got an agenda to keep. I got a schedule. I got to be here. I got the event. I got the meeting. Woo, woo, woo. So I got to weep and walk. But that's not pleasurable, though. That's not life. God didn't design us that way. So he just preached good, using the life of Jesus on just a prime example of how to balance your life when there's so much noise swirling in your head. Like, how do you find your balance and your peace?
Yeah.
It was a beautiful word.
Yeah.
Beautiful word.
And even if, and I think a lot of people probably shy away from things like that because they think it's this grandiose thing.
Mm-hmm.
Taking a moment for you.
Shit.
Close the bathroom door.
Yes. Find your peace.
Find your peace, even if it's 2 minutes. And in the book Atomic Habits, they talk about don't make a habit. If you're struggling with consistency, every habit should be 2 minutes max. Do it every day until that 2 minutes is like, I didn't even do nothing. So now I'm going to make it 5.
That's right.
15.
That's right.
30.
Yep.
Now I'm meditating for an hour. You know what I'm saying? And so I understand, and I try not to let my bias of being a single woman with no kids and, you know, minimal responsibility in regards of other people. I try not to let that get in the way. So I acknowledge people who are in those positions, but you can take 30 seconds. Just stop and breathe.
Yeah.
Chaos around you is still going to be there the 10 seconds you take to chill.
That's what I learned. Ooh.
And it's like you going in mode. Everything is a process. Your chaos not gonna instantly shut down.
No, ma'am.
So you have to give yourself permission to hold on.
Yep.
Just give me breathe in, breathe out, do the chicken head, go and let it out. Whatever you gotta do.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Whatever
Absolutely.
you have to do, take your moment. You deserve it. You've earned it. Life is not always about working hard, because baby, sometimes I just want to put my feet up. Sometimes my schedule is nothing.
And you know what though? I ain't gonna lie to you. Taking time to yourself is a luxury like a motherfucker that is not afforded to a lot. So what came to mind was a colleague of mine who was a young mother. She got 2 young sons. You know, not the most financially stable, not the best support system at home. But one day she said to me, like, just with brokenness in her eyes, you hear me? She said, some days I dream about killing my kids. And she said, I'll never do it. And I don't think she will. However, stress and trauma will push you to do anything when you're not able to take that moment. And we had about a 2.5 hour conversation. And I mean, just the idea of waking up, having to be a mom, get to work, as soon as I get home, you know, I got to get back to the kids, and I get it. It's like you on a treadmill, you're not making no progress and things. So I think that's probably one of the series that we should really focus on. Like, what are some coping techniques when all seems lost? Because even in her situation where, okay, I do get it. You can't muster up that 2 or 3 minutes, probably literally until everybody is asleep. But by then you're exhausted. You don't want to paint your nails. You just want to sleep. I just want to scroll Facebook or catch up on the show I like or blah, blah, blah. And it just becomes too much. But I think that will be one of our focal points. Just like, what are some extremely practical tips that we can do in our day-to-day operation? Because it's heavy out here for a lot of us. It's heavy on the avenue.
It is. And that's why I try to tap into other energies, because I know where my bias is in regards to taking a minute. I got a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
You know?
There you go.
And I know people who do not. And so I try to find or try to talk to people. And I have a lot of friends. I'm one of my only, like, closest friends that doesn't have kids. And I try to internalize kind of like what their day-to-day looks like and let people know that sometimes a minute, taking a minute for yourself doesn't even mean you're being removed physically. Yeah. It's just kind of taking literally a deep breath. Because I lost my keys. On my way here.
Tell them about your keys, girl.
So, people who know me know that I am a stickler for time. I hate being late, and that's some you know what I'm saying, encrypted things from my childhood that I could kind of get into on another day, DM me, I'll tell you about it. But I was literally frantic, like, oh my God, I never lose shit, like, where are my keys, I literally had to stop, and I was just like, okay, just relax. Yeah. It's okay. Like, in my mind, everything was urgent.
Mm-hmm.
And I always operate in this sense of urgency.
Yes, God.
And my keys were in my purse.
Mm-hmm. And how many times you said you look up in that purse?
Like 3, 4.
35 times?
Like 3, 4, 5, 7.
Yeah.
And so just knowing that when when your mind is in this constant state of like chaos and urgency, that's when you are not able to return.
Yes.
So speaking of returning,
yes.
we're gonna return to my Bible over here.
Yes.
But when we talk about returning, as you were speaking, I said we need to return not always to ourselves, right? So if I'm looking at my vision and my goal, sometimes I return to those who were before me. So I wrote down others have so you can. Right? You sometimes, I know a lot of times there are, first black this, first person to do this, but somewhere along the line there is something that you can return to as a blueprint, as a foundation, even if, and this is a curveball, even if you're returning to something that you do not want to be.
Yes. Uh-oh.
Okay? All right? So, in my therapy sessions, I kind of express, like, this is something that I don't want to be. Mm-hmm. But I need to return to why it is that I don't want to be that. And my therapist is like, but you just told me you did that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. That's why, because if I didn't return to it, I wouldn't know.
I can't address it.
I can't address it. So, sometimes returning is also acknowledging things that you don't want to be. Yeah. So you have to return to those before you so that you can understand, because some of that shit is encoded in your DNA. Yes. If we're talking about familiar trauma, some of us don't know past our grandmothers. Yes. But you have to understand, when I feel anger, I come from some put it down as black women. I just want to name that. And I tried to convince myself for a long time that I don't get mad. Yeah. Until I did. Until I did. And Miss Connie, that's my grandma. Mm-hmm. She came outside. Mm-hmm. Okay, my big sister Keisha came outside. Miss Marie, my mama, and Mary, all of them came outside one time. Mm-hmm. And I had to acknowledge that it was new for me, but it was always there. But understanding and recognizing that what I've grown to be has a lot to do with who's come before me. Yeah. And just understanding and acknowledging that others have done this, so you can, even in trauma, because you have to return to those things, but also in greatness. I want to be this amazing speaker. So who is an amazing speaker right now?
Tap in.
Why are they amazing? Yep. Why are they amazing to me, not just to the world? Reflect. What is it about them that is unique to them that I can kind of make sure it fits me? Absolutely. Because I'm not trying to be a copy and paste type of girl. Absolutely. I'm one of one. What Beyonce has said. But humbling yourself enough to say that this person is brilliant in my eyes. What is brilliant about them? Absolutely. And being able to do that. We sometimes have so much pride and so much ego that we're afraid to return to others that are not ourselves. You know what I mean? Because if I ain't got it, I'm going to be jealous of the person who does. Yeah. I'm inspired. Yeah. I've had to teach myself, and I said this years ago, I had to teach myself to not be intimidated but inspired. Come on. Huh? Come on. Because I was a jealous-ass bitch, and sometimes I still be working on that.
Wait, what was that? You got to be inspired. You got to be... Because I need somebody to put that in the comments. What you just said.
You have to learn to not be intimidated, but inspired.
Intimidated, not inspired. Or no, you have to be inspired. It's the quick. It's the quick showing herself. Y'all, it's the. You got to be inspired and not intimidated. Somebody put that in the comments, please. You got to be inspired, not intimidated. I love that.
You have to teach yourself to.
That's cold.
And
that's cold.
It's humbling, y'all, because when you see people that have things and you don't even know how they got it. You don't know what they're returning to. You don't know what they had to return to because you're afraid to return to your shit. But you hating on somebody that had to return to some shit that's probably heavier than yours.
That's good.
So you're intimidated or you're jealous or you're envious of someone and you don't even know.
You don't have a clue.
You don't know what's underneath the iceberg.
Yeah.
So instead, I'm going to challenge y'all and myself, because I be talking about me, to sit down and say, let me talk to you. How did you get here? And you'll be open. You'll be privy to so much more information, because not only are you returning to your bullshit, but now you're seeing like, damn, the world throwing curveballs like that?
At everybody.
At everybody.
At everybody.
So now you got some shit that I can learn from.
Yep.
You got some trauma that I can be on the lookout for.
Yep.
Because now we a team. And these motherfuckers ain't gonna know what to do. You shaking shit up.
That's it. That's it. I love it.
You know?
One thing that come to mind though on that, returning back to the basics or back to the beginning and whatnot.
Right.
I heard another preacher drop a word so practical. I love practical
Bring
preaching.
y'all Bibles next
Fuck all the
Tuesday.
holiness. I like practical. Bring them Bibles next Tuesday because we're gonna go. I'm gonna take y'all there.
All right.
But the brother talked about how he went to the gym, right? He worked out a couple hours and whatnot, threw everything in his bag. He had to get up out of there, but he noticed his bag was much heavier on his shoulders. It was real bulky and whatnot. And he stopped, refolded some things, maneuvered some things, zipped it back up, and went on his way. He said the revelation was,
give it to us, Jesus. Let him use you.
He didn't take nothing out the bag to lessen the weight. He had to rearrange some things. So I thought about that when you talked about your keys, because sometimes it's so much just piled in. We got to start at the basics. You have to go back. Let me take everything out of my suitcase.
Literally.
Let me take everything out of my purse. Okay, I got my wallet. I got my phone. Okay, boom, there are the keys. But I would have noticed that because I'm just ruffling around and not getting deeper than the surface. When you just throw that stuff in that gym bag, now the gym bag ain't even zipped up and you done ripped your zipper, versus if you take a couple extra moments, put things in their place and in their order. And that's where success and ease comes at. And another thing I wrote down, I love how I view black manhood in the sense of hierarchy. I hear you talking a lot about getting up next to people and not being the smartest person in the room and learning from people and saying, okay, I like what they're doing. How can I, level up like that, if you will, inspiration. So one thing about me is like, and I really noticed it deeper when my sister got married. So for a while, like when we do family dinners and shit like this, like I would sit at the head of the table and my mom and them would ask me to pray and so on and so forth. It's an honor that I don't ever take lightly, if you will. But then my sister got married, and I can specifically remember we had dinner at my mama's house, and they was like, okay, will you sit here? I'm like, no, big bro sit here.
Right.
He, you know what I'm saying? He has a different level of manhood than I. Like, we both fathers, but that husbandhood, I honor it because that comes with a different level of responsibility, sacrifice, blah, 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 right? Self-work, love, so on and so forth, providing. Same with prayer, like, and my son, so it'll either for me be my son's mother, her husband, I tell him to sit at the head of the table, or it's going to be my sister, husband. If it's my big brother, it's going to be, you know what I'm saying? But I look at myself as little bro, even though I'm big dog like a motherfucker in my family tree. Like I'm big hill to hood, big Ajamou around that thing. I understand that when it's another black man in the room who may have a little bit more skin in the game, you let that brother, that's the alpha brother in the room. You know what I'm saying? And I know how to be a servant. I know how to be a leader. I know how to clean the toilet. I know how to run the company. Right. And I think that for me is something that makes me very well rounded. But that comes with the ability to say, I admire something in this person. I'm inspired by something in this person. I don't look at my brother, Rob Brox, and say, I'm envious of his, dang near 20-year relationship. I'm inspired instead. What's the I word? We just said type of the thing. I ain't intimidated by it. I'm inspired by it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not intimidated by his manhood. What is he doing better than me? Or why he can keep a woman and I can't keep a woman? No. Still ask that same question, but with a different tone. Yep. Instead of saying, why he keep a woman, I can't keep a woman, say, okay, let me see what my brother doing and why he can keep a woman and I can't. Yeah. It's a totally different tone of attitude. You coming to learn, not to, you know what I'm saying, put some negativity out there and shit. So that return is serious. It's serious.
And so I just wrote down, because I was watching a podcast. It was, what is his name? I don't even remember his name, but it's called The Basement. And he's a preacher too. So shout out to God being all up in his name.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
But he mentioned the concept of submission. And we throw that word around as if it's some weak shit. But he mentioned, like, it's okay because it was two guys, two black men, and they were friends. And he was like, I had to submit to my friend. And when he spoke about it, he said that you have to literally break down the word submission. Yes, right? So you're being subordinate or a little bit lower, but you have to learn to be okay with that because the mission is the same.
Well,
you can't submit to someone if their mission is not in alignment with yours.
That's good. That is
you
good.
all have to be able to return to the same mission. So hell no, I'm not about to submit to you if your goal in life is to not be where I'm trying to be. And even if your goal is not what mine is, if your mission is to not see me get to mine, no.
I can't do nothing for you.
I can't be subordinate to you. So hell yeah, I'm gonna be that black woman that's wearing the pants in the house because your mission, sir, is not in alignment with where I'm trying to go.
That's it.
So I think we need to stop being afraid of that word too. You can submit to friends, you can submit to relationships, but sometimes you have to submit to yourself.
That's good.
Submit to your ego.
That's good.
Because yes, you want to be this. Yes, you want to get all this money, but you too good to go back and work a 9 to 5.
That's it.
Just don't lose sight of your mission. Don't lose sight of your vision. Don't lose sight of your purpose. Because sometimes you have to return, and that's something too that I thought of. Because when I think about being great, like I want to go and I want to go far. In my mind, I have to be able to do that by any means necessary. In parameters, right? I ain't about to go back on the block, you know what I'm saying? I ain't about to do that. But I'm okay with having to pick up a 9 to 5 if I have to.
Thanks.
I'm okay with shooting for the stars because if I fall, I ain't got no problem.
On me, yes, ma'am.
With working hard, going to a 9 to 5. You know what I'm saying? And so that gives me the courage. That gives me, I'm giving myself permission to aim high because I've been low already. I know what that's like. I'm trying to see what up there is like, so I gotta go.
That's good.
You know, so returning, sometimes we have to get comfortable. Well, all the time we have to get comfortable with it because if you always return back to where you've been, you have nowhere to go but up.
Facts.
I've been here for so long.
I
know what it feels like
for
here.
so long.
I know what it feels like here.
I've mastered the bottom.
I'm an
expert.
A pro.
I'm a professional at being
if you
want to
talk about being broke,
I'm in the mud. But you know what,
I'm your girl.
I learned, and I'm going to say this, I got a damn near get ready to skedaddle, but what I learned, though, was the ministry of the mud. We always talk about getting out the mud and coming out the mud and shit, but we fail to realize that in certain parts of the world, mud is a serious thing. You go overseas and take a mud bath. You get them impurities, them toxicities out that skin. Your skin be glowing and things. An elephant, the largest, most wisest mammal on the continent and shit, when it get hot, it take a mud bath to cool it off. I mean, the mud has a serious component to it if you understand the benefit thereof. So, you know, it's cool to get it out the mud. I agree. We don't want to stay there. But while I am in the mud, let me find some value in this thing, and let me aspire for higher. And that's it. That's the mission. That's the mission.
So in this first episode, because y'all, we're gonna be right back here next Tuesday, same time, same place. This episode, I hope you all have kind of found your answer to why you should return. And understanding the concept of Sankofa. If you want to go far, because he kind of bust out my notes at the beginning talking about my slingshot. I'm trying to say that to the end.
That was some great fucking things.
But the last note that I had is that you are a slingshot. You are a slingshot in that the further back you go.
Yes, God.
The goal of a slingshot, you aiming for some far shit. You want it to go far, but the further back you go, the tighter it gets. The harder it gets, you want to be to the point where you can't pull it back more.
That's good.
But that shit gonna fucking soar. So the further back you go, the further forward you can propel. So allow yourself to be a slingshot. Allow yourself to be comfortable being a slingshot. Don't be scared, because if you pop the slingshot right in front of you, you're not going to go that far.
Ain't gonna do nothing. It's gonna...
Ain't no shit. You wasting your time.
Absolutely.
So allow yourself to be a slingshot and understand and trust you and trust the process and trust God and trust the universe, trust the ancestors, trust the journey.
Well.
Okay? And allow yourself to propel forward. Okay? Don't get, when shit gets tight, you eventually got to come up out of it. That shell gonna break off. The snake gonna shed that skin because it got bigger.
Come on, preacher lady.
You know? So that's what I think I want to leave you all with today. And so I'm going to let my guests leave you all with some words when we talk about returning. So what do you want these people to walk away today? We got 7 days until we see y'all again.
Yes.
So I want you, what do you want to leave them with?
You know, as it pertains to mental health, I think just get back to the basics. Sometimes we overcomplicate life. We overcomplicate the game. We overcomplicate disciplining our kids. We overcomplicate getting to some money. It's the overthinker that I think all of us have seeds and elements thereof. But as easily as we can think about how much shit is going to go wrong, how much shit can go right as well. Like I said earlier, I'll be making up scenarios. A fucking dinosaur is going to step on my house and shit. I'm sitting up thinking about that at 4 in the morning. Like, damn, I hope this dinosaur don't come kick my car or something. It's just unrealistic. So, we gonna find peace. So that's my word. It ain't even gonna be no final word for today. Just tap back in this week so y'all can catch that next increase. That's it. That's it.
So hopefully you all figured out how to return. Thank you all for joining us on the first episode of 4 Universal Teas, the Sankofa series. We will be right back here. Same time, same place next week. Do what y'all gotta do. See y'all later.
Yeah.
Bye, y'all.